Talk to me about children. I've got two young boys. Last time we spoke here, I had no kids. I mean, I had my stepdaughter. She's amazing. She was 10 at the time. Now she's 14. Um, I'm trying to connect with these new beings. My boy, one boy is 2.5. I just feel in the last few months, I've actually started to maybe have a relationship where he doesn't ignore me when I go in the room. But it's still really new to me, and it's been hard. At the same time, it's been taxing on my wife, and she's of course had a really connected relationship with them because she carried them around for 9 months and cared for them, and it's been a really weird dynamic. And I'm trying to just go with it. But what do you usually tell your clients when it comes to connecting with children or even relationships with children, and what to think about or what to consider?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a difficult one. I shared with you outside before we started. For the first couple of years, I just didn't connect with my kids at all. I didn't want kids. And this might sound a bit weird, but a lot of men actually don't consciously choose to have children. Yeah. And I presented this to a client of mine one day, and I said, "Did you choose to have children?" He goes, "Philip, my wife got pregnant. I got her pregnant. We had babies, whatever. Like, what are you saying?" I said, "No, you kind of like, because a lot of us, it ends up being a societal thing. Our partners want it. It feels like either an organic thing or an expectation or a combination of all the above. But very few men actually really consciously sit down and make a choice to be a part of bringing a child into this world. And I think that's something that might sound so obvious. But when you don't make a choice, then you feel like you're not a part of it. And you feel like this is happening and the train is on, but you're not on the train, but you should be. The other thing I'm seeing an enormous amount of men in particular in business, entrepreneurs, driven founders and leaders in business, a huge amount of men struggling deeply with their inability to connect with their kids and the overwhelming judgment they have towards themselves for their inability to do that. And what they do is they're not curious because they're too busy being judgmental. And when there's judgment present, there's no possibility of growth. So if you wake up in the morning, say you're going out at night, you go, I'm not drinking, I'm on this amazing new diet, plant-based, whatever it happens to be, not drinking, and then you say, I have one glass of wine, and then you have 5, and you go home. There's every likelihood you'll wake up and have the breakfast you shouldn't be having because you want to reiterate how much of a loser you are, how you've screwed up, how you're not capable of being disciplined, and then you have the lunch you shouldn't have, and you probably drink again the next night. It's the same principle. Is when they kind of connect with their kids, they start to just reconnect with the very thing they're familiar with, the thing they can control, which is business. So why would you, and I'm not speaking about you personally, but why would you go home, walk in the door to be ignored by a little kid who just wants mom or he wants, the breast milk or whatever, he wants the toys? Why? And then try, fail. You're better off just being in the office, in our minds sometimes. I'm better off in the office, controlling something and connecting, and that's how I show up in the world. That's my functionality to provide. And I feel that the judgment is killing this opportunity for growth. So that's number one, or 2 or whatever. But
the judgment is judging yourself?
Judging self.
Okay, like I suck at this.
I suck at this. I'm
no good at this.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm working with a gentleman he reached out on Facebook in a closed group. And he said, on a good day, he was talking about him as a parent, about Paw Patrol and the fact that his kids, the worst words that churn his stomach are, "Daddy, will you play with me?" And what I would, and I'm going to be spending some time with this man, and he said, "I'm the worst father ever. I'm a bad human being. Now, does anybody have practical advice of how I can connect with the kids?" And then there's about 50 comments of people saying, "Oh, do the things you want to, you connect through the lens of your passions and stuff, wrestle with your kids, all the practical stuff. That's great. But why is he in this situation?" And what I would love to know is, how was he fathered, or how was he parented? What was his relationship to parenting? What is the context he had? What is the schooling he had? And to start building it from there, from the ground up, and giving himself a break. I mean, it took me, as I said, 5-6 years to really begin to connect with the kid, with Charlie. And no one is on Facebook saying I'm a shitty dad. But everyone's on Facebook typically showing photographs, you're on the swings, you're this, and I'm thinking, holy shit, when I look around the world, there's nowhere I can go to have this conversation. And I was tagged about 1.5 years ago on Father's Day by a gentleman called Derek. And he said, "To all the amazing fathers I know." And I was one of, say, 40 fathers. And for a moment, I went, it's kind of cool. And the ego was just celebrating. And then I said, "But do I feel like a good dad?" And my answer was no. And I said, I wonder how many of those dads that were tagged truly feel like great fathers. And it's been the most, if you ask me what's my greatest challenge in life, is parenting. My greatest challenge. I can write a book. I can run events. I can sit here and maybe do a good job, maybe not, I don't know. Hopefully deliver some value to somebody in the world. But do I know how to figure out my kids and how to make it, be a fantastic parent? No. But the greatest advice I believe I can ever give anybody, and this is obnoxious, so heads up in advance, is no matter what you do, you're going to fuck your kids up. And what I mean by that, before anybody judges, and judge me afterwards if you want, but just bear with me for one moment. What I mean by that is the realization I had is if I over-snuggle my kids and hug my kids, I'm going to smother them and they're going to have issues. If I'd never hug them, never ever hug them and tell them I love them, they're going to have issues. And if I do it in between, they're going to have issues. So it's back to this idea of letting go. And I will never give up on my kids. I would take a bullet for my children, but I'm not going to live my life for them. And as parents, I think a lot of us maneuver our lives to fit in with our kids. And I think that's a mistake. If I can be the best human I can be, I have the best opportunity to be the best husband I can be, and therefore be the best father I can be. And every time I try to change my life to fit my family in, it just doesn't work.
What's an example of that? What would an example of someone be like that? Well, I'm not going to do this so I can be a better father. I'm not going to do this.
Moving to the United States.
Okay.
I left Ireland for no apparent obvious reason. I love the country, love the people, all my family are there. And I needed to go to North America. And people say, oh, it was easy for you because you didn't have kids. Well, no, it wasn't easy at all. It was the hardest decision probably ever made. And then we did it again. After 9 years of living in Canada, we moved to Boulder 2 years ago. And people say, why Boulder? And I said, I don't know, it was one of these. But intuitively, I knew I needed to be in America. And we have 2 kids now. We have now a 9-year-old and a 7-year-old. And if I looked at it purely through the lens of my children, there's a big argument to say we should be back in Ireland with their cousins and their grandparents, both sets of grandparents. And I said, no, that would be a decision that I feel we would regret. We need to do what we need to do.